and welcome to the podcast Soulcasted. I'm your host, Tara Lockett. On today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about breaking the cycles, the addiction that we carry from chaos. But it has to be done in threes: me, myself, and I. But before I get into that, I want to share with you the wisdom dot that I like to call it from the great late Lao Tzu. He is the 5th century ancient BC Chinese philosopher, and he states, because one believes in oneself, one doesn't try to convince others. Because one is content with oneself, one doesn't need others' approval. And because one accepts oneself, the whole world accepts him or her. Now, there are 3 things in that quote, aka wisdom dot, and that is believe in yourself. That is be content with yourself, and that is accept yourself. Now, we are healing and breaking free and becoming whole, right? We're healing our minds, we're freeing our hearts, and we're activating the much change needed in our society. But in order for us to do that, it's going to involve me, myself, and I. Now, I want to share with you the passion that I have about this episode and why I'm bringing these things to you. I get the opportunity to do it, and I'm happy for that. And 2 is because I figured if this information can help me break free and become whole, then it can help others too. Now, that doesn't mean that, I've arrived, I'm free, I've got it. No, it means that it's allowed me to heal my mind, to free my heart, and to activate. We got to activate the change. We can't just stay stuck. We have to activate it, right? So in the 3-part that I want to share with you, it's strength, transformation, and renewal. Now, I need you to keep in mind that my passion in sharing this is simply, again, so that you can understand what you're going through in your mind. For me, it was difficult for me to understand what exactly was happening to me. But I'm so glad that I took the choice to the steps to go and seek help, and I encourage you to do the same. Now, how these topics relate to you, it's simple. If you have a brain, it relates to you. If you have a friend with a brain, it relates to you. If you have a family member with a brain, it relates to you. And together, we can make these things happen. What you'll gain is wisdom and understanding. Now, it is important for us to operate in wisdom and in understanding. And that is how things are established and built. In order for us to relate to one another, we have to operate in those aspects of wisdom and understanding. Now, strength. We need strength to confront, and we need wisdom about how we confront it, right? We need that wisdom in how in confronting it. Transformation is the challenge. With that challenge, each day I want you to pick out something that you are struggling with every day to overcome. For me, I had to start big. I had to go big simply because the very thing that was out to break me was on me, and I had to seek the help that I needed so that it didn't break me. And I encourage you to, each day overcome something that you're dealing with negatively in your mind. And then the renewal comes, the breaking. Evolve with grace and kindness, because you've already won. At the end of the day, you won when you begin to activate that change. You win. Now, I want you to understand something. Breaking the curse isn't an easy task. It is a very difficult process. However, it's possible. And it is the responsibility of each one of us to do the very best that we can do. For me, I follow the KISS method. And that KISS method stands for keep it simple, stupid. Nature is a process. Let it be simple for the human process. Now, what are we addicted to? I want to share a few things with you that I came into contact with, and that's the reason why I am sharing this with you. And for those who have healthy minds, this will help you understand those who don't. And we're in this together, right? We are addicted to a lot of things, and we don't really put much emphasis on addiction to the chaotic things that's taking place in our lives. In other words, we become addicted to our traumas when we don't fix our traumas. And I just gave you three processes of fixing of fixing those traumas, breaking the cycles. That's what breaking these cycles mean, is fixing the traumas. Because those traumas were put upon us unwillingly, we have to take the three steps of me, myself, and I: strength, transformation, and renewal. Strength to confront what's going on in your mind and use wisdom when confronting. Transformation that challenges you to work on yourself every day until the day you no longer exist on earth. Renewal, that's the breaking. Evolve with grace and kindness. Grace and kindness is so needed in this process. It is very much needed in this process. Now, let's dig into the things that I wanted to identify with you, which is the information I received at the .holistics.psychologist. I want to give credit to them. But they go on to say, be conscious of how often the content you consume emotionally activates you. And when you're not activated, when you're calm, cool, and collected, make sure that you feed into yourself as much as you can. Practice this daily with breathing and meditation while using a mantra. Even the wisdom dots that I shared with you today, because one believes in oneself, one doesn't need to convince others, because one isn't content with oneself. One doesn't need others' approval. And because one accepts oneself, the whole world accepts him or her. And so that's a good mantra to start off with. Create boundaries in relationships where you feel drained, resentful, and overwhelmed, as well as noticing people and situations, not just people, but situations that give you a pull towards drama and gossip. For me, I really had to take in consideration all of these things when it came to what is my problem? What am I drawn to? Why am I in the midst of this chaos? And that's simply because our unconscious states, we're familiar with those things, and we seek that familiarity. It goes on to say that chaos is really a blanket term for feeling activated. In other words, it feels great. We were addicted to it. We're emotionally activated, physically activated, and a chemical response in the body we can become dependent upon. It can involve gossip, drama, uncertainty, and judgment. It's so normal to us. If we aren't conscious, we may not be aware of the hold it has on us. And the truth is, we can look around and know that this type of mark of mental slavery has a very strong hold. However, with me, myself, and I, you can conquer anything you put your mind to conquer too. Now, I want to read another thing that it states when it's talking about, trauma and addiction and chaos. It goes on to also say chaos is the ultimate distraction from ourselves, from our own shadow and our own ego, from our own unresolved traumas. We get to feel alive, while at the same time we get to avoid our pain. The perfect coping mechanism. Now, I can relate to this statement simply because that's who I was. Now, I want to give you examples of who I was simply because this is the truth. When you apply it, it works. But if you just sit around and speak it, I tell people we are on an overdose of speaking something without an action. We don't put action to our words. For me, I had to be 100% active in healing this mind, freeing this heart, and then an activation of change. Because nothing will change unless we change. And it's up to us, me, myself, and I, to address all the issues connected to our traumas, connected to all the pain and hurt that we've experienced in life. Now, it's unconscious, obviously, so therefore we must bring awareness and consciousness to what we're doing with our lives. We're here on this earth for a purpose, and we have to embrace that purpose. We have to accept that purpose. We have to believe that purpose as well. Because one believes in oneself. What are you believing in? Your purpose. Why are you here? Because one is content with oneself. Well, you know what? The situation may not be exactly where I want it to be right now, but you know what? I'm going to make the best of it and be content with myself. And then I have to accept myself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Remember the quote from yours truly, you have to have a willingness. And when you have a willingness, then you have to accept everything negative and positive about yourself. Although that is a hard thing to do, it is necessary as we go through these traumas and these things that we're healing in life. We want to be able to operate in happiness just as it is, not covering up pain. We want to be able to operate happy because it's a choice that we made, not because pain is, making us disguise ourselves. These are marks of mental slavery. And our mental constipation is just that. It doesn't allow us to think past the things that we have, the thoughts in our minds, the traumas that hunt us, the wrongs that was done to us, the unforgiveness that we hold in our hearts. All these things matter to who we are as humans. Now, it goes on to say, healing from these cycles of emotional addiction allows us to regain the skills of consciously placing our awareness on things we choose. Now the power is back in our hand, what we choose. This is where our power lies. Chaos is home until we choose to move, and you are worthy of peace. We have to understand one thing and one thing only. We must make peace a priority. When we are breaking those cycles and we are breaking that addiction to chaos, we have to understand strength, transformation, and renewal. And what does that mean? We have to confront, challenge, and break. What does that mean? We have to heal our minds, free our hearts, and activate the change that is so needed. And then we remember, because we believe in ourselves, we don't have to convince others. Because we are content with ourselves, we don't need others' approval. And because we accept ourselves, the whole world accepts us. And that's a beautiful position to be in. I want to thank you for watching, and be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and way more important than any of that, share this with someone that you know for sure is dealing with mental health issues, because together we can help each other break the mental chains by healing our minds, freeing our hearts, and activating the change that's needed. And why do we need to do that? Because your mind matters and is the vision of our future.